Good evening. Tonight's team presentation on talent acquisition for HR across organizations is going to be presented by Judy, Kara, and Todd. We're going to be discussing the talent acquisition process, identify strengths, and identify opportunities for improvement for a nonprofit organization, a for-profit organization, and a government organization.
So for the for-profit organization, I decided to research Nordstrom's. Next slide, please. So Nordstrom's is an American chain of luxury department stores headquartered in Seattle, Washington. It was founded in 1901 by John W. Nordstrom and Carl F. Wallen. They have 349 stores operating in 40 states, Puerto Rico, and Canada. Next slide, please. So Nordstrom actually began as a shoe retailer and then later expanded into an inventory more of perfume, handbags, clothing, jewelry, cosmetics, and more recently, wedding and home furnishing. Their brands can range from Gucci, Chanel, Prada, Versace, and so on. Their targeted audience is all people, whether it's men, women, children, or teen, but mostly it is towards more of the upper middle class women from the age of 25 to 55 years old. Currently, they are speaking to more of the millennials. And Nordstrom's is known for their customer service, how they try to provide the fairy tale shopping experience for people by treating their customers like royalty. Next slide, please. So Nordstrom's core values is we work hard to be a company that our employees and our customers can be proud of. For us, that means doing our best to support the many people and communities we serve. It also means respecting the environment by reducing our impact and conserving resources where we can. We strive to make people feel good and show that Nordstrom is a company that cares. Next slide, please. Nordstrom's has a really large social media presence. They have a Facebook account, Twitter, Pinterest, Google+, Instagram, LinkedIn, and many more. A lot of their accounts usually post anything from events to promotional sales. However, sometimes they do also use these presence or these medias to recruit candidates for any positions that are opened and that they need. Next slide, please. So for the application process, they usually use a contract system called Taleo. Most of it's all done online, and it's relatively easy to apply unless the candidate is not particularly skilled in computer input system. They do also have several outsourcing methods, which includes Indeed.com, and they have a presence at career fairs. Once they submit the applications, the system would scan and screen applicants for those who would match for the position that they are posting or looking for. Next slide, please. So I spoke to Vincent Lowe, a talent acquisition manager at Nordstrom, and he said that for his position, he was more known as the problem solver in a sense. So each department, whenever they need a job to be filled or some sort of recruitment, they would go to the talent acquisition department. They would have a one-on-one session with them and talk to them about what they need in a candidate. They would have a conversation that usually have open-ended and direct questions that the talent acquisition manager would help design and define a perfect description for the job opening or job profile. All the job profile is not some generic job description. It's usually catered towards what the head of departments is looking for. Once they have that done, usually the talent acquisition manager would put it through the contract to system Taleo, but they also do turn to their LinkedIn company page where they share posts with fashion forward and motivational message to target their ideal candidates. The talent acquisition manager is there to resolve issues that could occur between the departments and the applicants also. And in the end, the ultimate decision is made by the sales manager or the head of the department that are searching for that particular candidate. And Nordstrom's has really many great strengths on how their talent acquisition position or process works, with how they try to find that ideal candidate through different mediums. They don't only go through the social media, they go to career fairs and whatnot. The only thing that they could improve on, and Vincent Lowe, the talent acquisition manager, also agrees on, is that the system does screen out the applicants through their resume and their applications. So if certain words aren't seen through the system, they do screen out these potentially really good candidates, and they could lose out on these really good candidates rather than actually screening them in instead of screening them out. So an improvement, what they could do is to somehow redefine the contract to system to make the process better and not screen out any potential candidates. Next screen, please.
Okay, the company that I had chosen to do some research on is Accessible Festivals. This is a non-for-profit company. Next slide, please. Accessible Festival's mission is making live music experiences possible for everyone, specifically individuals with any sort of disability. They provide transportation, a place for them to view the event, and any additional assistance that individuals may need. This is an ADA access, so this is a company that works with festivals all over the country, and it reaches out to anyone with any sort of disabilities, or also anyone that wants to make a difference and help others enjoy events that previously wouldn't be able to do so. Next slide, please. Accessible Festivals does have a very strong presence in the media. They utilize things such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They also have a blog where they post a lot of events and things that they're currently up to. And this also kind of does help spread awareness for what they're trying to do. In addition to that, there have been several articles that have been written about this company, and this has also helped them get their name out there. In addition to that, they also work with a lot of very large festivals and corporations that also promote their services. Because this company is ran mostly based on donations, it's super important for them to get their name out there and continue their legacy. Next slide, please. So as far as the application process goes for them, they do conduct online applications, and that's predominantly how they hire volunteers and more permanent employees. So every summer what they do is they take several volunteers who gain free access into the festivals and events that they take part in, and they get free access for their services and help. And I looked at the application process online, and it's very easy to use. It's just like a questionnaire that you fill out and you submit. And another thing that they do have that I think was very beneficial for them is they also do have a referral program. Next slide, please. Okay, so as far as the recruitment, after discussing some things with the manager there, Corey Hammock, I kind of discovered how they got their momentum and how they obtained their employees. So most employees do actually start out as volunteers. And for those that are a little more permanent, in addition to the online interviews, they do also conduct phone interviews since they work with people all over the country. Before the events start in the summer, they generally have training sessions for those employees. And managers do discuss open positions and the hiring of individuals. Although it's not a very formal process, it's really just a couple managers speaking with one another. This company is also rapidly growing, so every year they're needing more and more volunteers and staff. I found out from Corey that they do not conduct background checks for their employees and that the permanent employees are actually in charge of training their volunteers. A couple things I wanted to note on that I think that they can actually improve on. I found out that their payment structure, with that, they don't actually pay their employees until 3 or 4 weeks after the event occurs. So I definitely think they could work on improving this so that they pay their employees in a timely fashion. In addition, I think that it would be really important for them to expand and promote the referral program in order to attain additional employees, since most of their staff start off as volunteers anyway. And then the last thing I did want to make a note on, since a lot of those employees are volunteers first, I think implementing a more in-depth interview process would be helpful to hire better and more long-term employees. Next slide.
And for our government agency tonight, I'm going to be discussing the United States Air Force. And I'm going to begin with their brand or image, which you see off to the right there. It was changed about 10 years ago after 9/11 to kind of modernize the Air Force from the more traditional symbols that used to be used to draw people's attention. They made it more sleek, made it more powerful, and made it more appealing to younger generations that look for a more modern career. So in reviewing the candidates attracted to the brand, typically you're going to have people, when you discuss military or the Air Force, who want adventure, they want opportunity, they want change. They might not be ready for college, but they want to start a career that can at least build the early beginnings of their education or give them the opportunity financially to get an education. The targeted generation for the Air Force, along with the other branches of the military, is between typically 18 and 24 years old, because they want the younger, motivated, more fit candidates to be able to protect our nation and conduct and perform all tasks that might be required, regardless of what job that may be. They may be aircraft mechanics, they might be special operations. People would refer to them as commandos in the Army or something of that sort. When you talk about the values that are important to each applicant, the Air Force is very strict in what they're looking for. They want integrity first. They want service before self, and they want excellence in all they do. So those are their three values. I'm going to discuss the media next. And when you look at the Air Force in terms of social media and websites, they are everywhere. They have Facebook accounts, they have LinkedIn accounts, they have Twitter accounts, they have an official newspaper site in the Air Force Times. They have several blogging sites that they allow active duty guardsmen, even potential recruits to log into to discuss the military and discuss the Air Force and what the potential is for them in the military. They also have their official recruiting website that is really the launching pad for people to sign up to join the military. You fill out your basic information, you hit a button that says contact your recruiter, and typically within 2 days you get a phone call back saying, hey, when can you come in to meet us? They also have installation sites, the individual bases where our airmen are stationed typically have their own public website that people can go to and log in and view information, ask questions to sometimes people as high as the commander of the base, the man in charge of the entire base or woman. And the Air Force also has periodic television ads. All of the military franchises have television ads when they need to recruit more people. Sometimes it's just that tiny seed that they need to plant in somebody's mind that's going to make them want to sign up and dedicate 4 years or 5 years or 6 years of their life at a time to protecting our great nation. In reviewing the application process, it's a combination really of both online and paper format. It's a very detailed process that involves several steps. And oftentimes with the recruiters, the first thing they're going to do is pull your credit report, which of course is done online, just like all of us would do if we wanted to go buy a car. That's the first thing we do. That's the first thing the banks do. They check your credit report to see whether or not you're trustworthy financially. The initial recruiting package, however, is paper. So when an applicant goes into a recruiting office, the first thing they're going to do is fill out a stack of about 25 papers, including their social security number, their contact information, their addresses for the last 10 years, any alias names. It's a very tedious, drawn-out process to try and apply, and it's not always a simple process. In addition to the paperwork and credit checks and everything locally at the recruiting station, they also have to do background checks. And those are conducted both online and paper, and it always involves typically an investigator or sometimes more, depending on the type of position the applicant is trying to apply for. If they're applying to work on nuclear weapons, they might have an entire team of investigators doing online research and going potentially door to door, talking to everybody that person has associated with for the past 10, 15, 20 years, depending on how they've been alive, really. So the ease of application is not an easy process, and it is very lengthy with the security clearance requirements just to get in. It can sometimes take a month, and I've personally seen other people that went through 6 months worth of process, and even after they were active duty, they had already been sworn in. Their security clearance hadn't even been cleared for the job that they were doing, and they had to be put on hold essentially after they were already in. So in discussing the recruitment side of joining the military, I did an interview with Aaron Scherer, who's a recruiting superintendent. As far as his perspective of the interview process, we just discussed a lot. And the superintendent, by the way, is an equivalent to a hiring manager in a civilian organization. The process in discussing with Aaron, there's really no way to change it because there's so much involved and so much at stake when you're talking about the protection and defense of our entire nation. It's got to be the long, drawn-out process, and they have to make sure that they get the right candidates for the right jobs that are physically capable and mentally capable of completing all of the tasks associated with those jobs without incident and without question. So when you look at all of the different components of the process, we mentioned briefly the past slide, the background and security clearance check process can be months. It can even potentially take a year, sometimes longer, depending on the level of clearance. If you want to work on nukes or if you want to work on a top secret bomber, chances are, in order for you to get that clearance, it's going to take a good year just for them to be able to conduct a thorough enough investigation to ensure that you're trustworthy enough to be on that and won't talk about it. It requires a physical exam to join the military. They do have basic requirements just to get into the Air Force, but depending on your job, there's likely going to be additional physical checks that they're going to do. If you're an aircraft mechanic that has to lift heavy parts, they might want to make sure you can lift 120 pounds over your head from a squatting position. So there's just a number of different factors that can go into really all parts of it. You also have the credit check we mentioned earlier. They want to make sure that you're financially responsible and not going to get into trouble once you're in. Because if you obtain a top secret clearance and you come back and you end up with bad credit, it can affect your clearance. They can actually remove your clearance, which means either they have to kick you out because you can't work on the items or conduct the tasks associated with whatever top secret program you have, or they have to retrain you into a job that doesn't require that clearance anymore. So they're already investing a lot of money into you as a recruit. They don't want to have to spend the extra money to both pull that clearance and retrain you into another job. They do drug screening on everybody that comes in, and that's something to this day that if you tell them that you've used marijuana more than 3 times in the past, they're not going to let you in. And if you've used anything within the last 30 days, they're not going to let you in. So drug screening is still a very relevant part, even in the state of Colorado, even in California, Oregon, all of the other states that it's a little more regular to see people using drugs such as that. The recruiting side also has to ensure manning levels in all of the jobs available in the Air Force. So just because you want to be a medic, they might not have any availability for you to be a medic, and they might either have to tell you, well, you can't join yet, or you're just going to have to take another job, in which they might allow you to apply for a different one. Or, like I said, they may just tell you, we're sorry, we can't allow you in. You're going to have to wait another 6 months or a year just to get in. And finally, they also have to coordinate the actual entrance dates for each recruit to begin their training. And this is so that they don't overwhelm the recruit training commands and the tech schools where everybody learns their specific trade. So there's a lot that goes into it. And again, after talking with Aaron about this, there's just really no way to reduce the process or make it quicker or more efficient. There just are so many parts that there's just no way that we can possibly reduce it. So in summary, while there is always room for improvement, and the Air Force's process is probably by far the one that not necessarily could, but you would want to say, hey, maybe we could recommend for improvements. However, because of the requirements of the hiring process, security background checks, credit checks, physical, health physical checks, knowledge and skills testing, etc., there's just really no way to better the processes unless there is a significant increase in personnel for each area within the hiring process. Regardless of the type of organization, there are similarities and differences in each of their talent acquisition processes. But no matter the company or industry, all of the organizations want to hire the best talent available to ensure the success of the overall goals and missions of that company. And with that, we are going to conclude tonight's presentation. I want to thank Judy and Kara for their input, and I definitely appreciate, all of their effort in conducting this. So with that, I am going to say good night.